Number 11. Philip Frank Panzica III and Chloe Scordianos. The high roller Ferris wheel is known as the happiest half hour in Las Vegas. It certainly lived up to its name for 27-year-old Philip Frank Panzica III and 21-year-old Chloe Scordianos, who were caught getting frisky on the ride in 2016. The tourists, who were in town from Texas and New York and were riding alone in one of the enclosed glass cabins when staff members noticed that they didn't have their clothes on. Using the intercom, workers instructed the pair to get dressed several times, but Panzica and Scordianos reportedly ignored the commands while enjoying a post-romp cigarette. They continued to go at it, even after riders in other cabins began recording the risque encounter on their phones. The duo were also captured on surveillance footage. They were arrested for their behavior, but a judge set a court date in hopes of resolving the matter without going to trial. In the meantime, the tabloid show Inside Edition paid Panzica $4,000 for an interview, and he wasn't shy about showing off the money. However, the ordeal would soon become the least of the couple's problems. Just a month after the incident, Panzica was shot dead in a robbery and carjacking in Houston. According to court documents, the Ferris wheel incident set the stage for the murder. Prosecutors alleged that the accused killers, Bryant Christopher Watts and Aaron Jones, may have been tempted to commit the crime after seeing Panzica bragging about his payout from Inside Edition. Watts was convicted of murder and received a 50-year prison sentence. The outcome of the case against Jones is unclear, but it's safe to assume that he paid a price for his role in the crime as well. Number 10. Brandon Wright. In what can only be described as a classic Florida man story, Volusia County deputies had their hands full one morning in 2022 when they received a call about a naked man wielding a machete and trying to steal another man's clothing. When they arrived at the scene, a surveyor who was working in the area said that the suspect had approached him in a wooded area with a machete in hand and demanded his clothes, wallet, and phone. The surveyor followed the orders, but the madman threw the machete at him, causing it to bounce off his chest, and then ran away. He fled the scene in a car, but luckily the surveyor was uninjured. Police began tracking the suspect, 34-year-old Brandon Wright, after his car drove through a license plate reader in the area. Just a few minutes later, they received a call about a naked man outside a gas station. A patrol helicopter kept tabs on Wright's location, while officers on the ground scrambled to catch up with him. At one point during the chase, an officer in the helicopter remarked that the suspect was yelling at people in the parking lot and very animated. Footage from the chopper then showed Wright walking away from the gas station and into traffic. He then went back to the gas station, did some push-ups near the entrance, and then laid on the ground while officers took him into custody. This wasn't the first time Wright was arrested for acting bizarre in public while naked. About a year earlier, he was caught unclothed and running in the same area. His most recent charges of attempted robbery, aggravated battery, and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon only add to an extensive list of previous charges. He's also been arrested for false imprisonment, possession of cocaine, and battery on a law enforcement officer. Number 9. Brandy Duxbury and Mandy Ruggeber. Two New York women in their late 30s were allegedly caught pool hopping in 2022 when they were found trespassing on a private property in Ocean City, Maryland. The pair, later identified as 37-year-old Brandy Duxbury and 40-year-old Mandy Ruggeber, could be heard laughing and yelling all the way from the road, according to police reports. Officers showed up to find the women by a pool behind an apartment building. Local Dispatch newspaper reported that there was a lock on the gate surrounding the pool, along with signs stating no trespassing and pool pass required. When officers asked the suspects how they got into the pool area, the completely naked Duxbury reportedly said they hopped over the fence. A resident who came outside to see what was going on gave the police their access card for the pool area so that they could deal with the unauthorized guests. As police entered the area, Duxbury jumped back into the pool and became uncooperative. They eventually managed to take her into custody, wearing a makeshift covering made from a police poncho. In the meantime, Ruggeber allegedly yelled obscenities at the police. Both women were charged with a long list of crimes, including indecent exposure, trespassing, disorderly conduct, and obstructing and hindering. Number 8. Michael Matheson and Lauren Wilder. Getting intimate on Ferris wheels is apparently a popular form of indecent exposure based on how often it happens. In early 2019, 30-year-old Michael Matheson and 31-year-old Lauren Wilder were taken into custody after Cincinnati police received reports of the pair getting frisky on the city's 150-foot, 46-meter Sky Star observation wheel. Authorities accused the couple of doing it without a care in the world about who might be watching, including families with young children. Matheson and Wilder pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct while intoxicated in exchange for getting the public indecency charges dropped. Wilder received an 8-month probation sentence, while Matheson was sentenced to 1 day in jail. Another couple was accused of copulating on an Ohio Ferris wheel in 2022, this time at the Cedar Point Amusement Park in Sandusky. Fellow park-goers spotted David Davis and Heather Johnson in the midst of the naughty act just after dark and told police that the couple laughed off their concerns. However, they most likely weren't laughing when officers showed up. Davis and Johnson initially denied that they were doing anything inappropriate on the ride, despite an entire group of people reporting otherwise. The pair initially claimed that Ms. Johnson had bent over to pick up a pack of cigarettes she had dropped on the floor of their cabin. They changed their story, though, and owned up to the dirty deed after police told them that some of the spectators were a little too young to see that kind of behavior. Due to the ages of some of the witnesses, the suspects face heightened charges and are facing up to 180 days in jail. Number 7. Aaron Thomas and Megan Montanaro. After being arrested in 2019 for cycling under the influence in Florida, a couple decided to get it on in the back of a squad car. One encounter with the police is usually enough for most people to be on their best behavior. However, Megan Montanaro and Aaron Thomas couldn't even wait until they were released from custody to get back to their shenanigans. It all started when police observed that the pair had no lights on their bikes and were swerving in and out of traffic in the middle of the night. Officers noticed that they smelled like alcohol and they failed roadside sobriety tests. The arresting officer was outside of the car and standing nearby when they disrobed and started to go at it. When the officer opened the door to stop them, Thomas was already completely undressed and Montanaro was half naked. After being pulled from the vehicle, Thomas attempted to flee on foot but was quickly apprehended behind a nearby ice cream parlor. Both suspects were charged with DUI, exposing themselves, as well as unnatural and lascivious acts. Number 6. Michael Nean. When San Francisco police were called to a luxury apartment building regarding suspected vandalism in October of 2022, they didn't expect to find the building flooded by a naked man. They were summoned to the scene after a fire alarm went off in the high-rise. After figuring out the problem was coming from the 11th floor, officers discovered the unclothed suspect standing next to a pipe that was gushing water. They then shut the water off and detained the suspect. The man was identified as 46-year-old Michael Nean, a resident of the building, and charged him with felony vandalism and resisting arrest. The water had flooded several floors below the open pipe, leaving many people's homes severely damaged. Twitter user Wagnerian posted photos of the incident showing a literal waterfall pouring down a staircase and what looks like several inches of water in a hallway. Number 5. Kira Welsh. During his routine patrol one night in September of 2022, a police officer spotted a half-naked woman hanging out the passenger side window of a car and firing a gun in a populated area of downtown Memphis, Tennessee. He called for backup and pulled the vehicle over. The underdressed woman, who was identified as Kira Welsh, said that she was just turning up for her 23rd birthday, which happened to be about a month earlier. According to an arrest affidavit, she admitted to drinking at least 4 alcoholic beverages and was clearly intoxicated and smiling and laughing the entire time. Officers also found a bag of weed and a Glock on the floor of the car. The gun belonged to the suspect's boyfriend, who was driving during the out-of-control display. Interestingly enough, Welsh managed to avoid an indecent exposure charge, but was hit with 1 count of having a handgun while intoxicated. She was also charged with reckless endangerment with a deadly weapon and possession of marijuana. She's free on a $7,500 bond while the case works its way through the court system. Number 4. Eric and Lori Harmon. Eric and Lori Harmon didn't initially get into any trouble when they did the deed in a glass gondola while riding the 187-foot, 57-meter skywheel in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. However, when a clip of the act surfaced on an adult website in 2021, law enforcement took the situation seriously. In addition to the Ferris wheel incident, detectives also found footage of the pair being intimate in a community pool and on a bench near a playground. The Harmons were arrested at least twice in 1 month for lewdness after investigators figured out their identities and tracked them down. Eric and Lori pleaded guilty to indecent exposure, and they both received 2 years of probation for the first batch of inappropriate acts. Although it seemed the couple just couldn't stop themselves from doing it in public and got arrested yet again several months later. This time they were caught getting frisky in a public photo booth at an arcade. At their previous sentencing, the judge had told the pair that they could face jail time if they violated their probation, but it's unclear whether they ended up behind bars for their most recent charges. Number 3. Tyler Davis French. A man living in Deweyville, Texas, awoke to an unpleasant surprise one morning in October 2022 when he discovered a naked man in his house who was trying to steal his cat. The homeowner dialed 911 and said that he shot the intruder, who was later identified as 21-year-old Tyler Davis French. The bullet missed all the major organs and only grazed the man's right forearm. French ran from the scene and was apprehended nearby after a Newton County deputy arrived in the area. He received medical treatment for his bullet wound and was then hauled off to jail. The suspect was charged with burglary and evading arrest and was held on bonds totaling over $100,000. While the homeowner may have fallen under heavy scrutiny in some states for his decision to fire his gun at French, Texas gun laws are pretty generous when it comes to a person's right to defend their home. In the end, the homeowner was cleared of any wrongdoing. Number 2. Juan Alfaro Rodriguez. During the summer and fall of 2022, numerous victims reported being assaulted or flashed by a partially naked man along the Washington and Old Dominion Trail in Fairfax County, Virginia. Police received disturbing complaints about the behavior for 2 months before they finally arrested 42-year-old Juan Alfaro Rodriguez. During their investigation, authorities found evidence linking the suspect to numerous other incidents in the area and elsewhere. They charged Rodriguez in connection with 20 indecent exposure cases in Fairfax County alone. Detectives also discovered that he had an outstanding warrant in Suffolk County in Long Island, New York, for allegedly attacking a jogger in 2021. He was also wanted by U.S. Marshals as an out-of-state fugitive. Rodriguez is being held without bail, much to the relief of women who live in the areas he's known to frequent. He's now facing both state and federal charges. Number 1. Alyssa Escamilla. Police in McAllen, Texas received some unusual complaints in late 2022 when several library patrons and staff members called to report a woman taking nude photos in the bathroom. People also claimed that the suspect was yelling and slamming doors. When officers arrived at the scene, they were told that the woman, later identified as Alyssa Escamilla, was talking on the phone and taking photos in the bathroom while only wearing a thong. An employee said that this was the second time they had caught her in the lavatory without her clothes on. After the first incident, Escamilla complied with the staff member's command to leave the library. However, this time she got confrontational and aggressive and began yelling. Fearing that the interaction would escalate into physical violence, the worker left the bathroom and called 911. Police found some pills on the suspect and also discovered she was wanted for assault. Escamilla was charged with indecent exposure, assault causing bodily injury, and possession of a dangerous drug. Would you rather wake up in the middle of the night to find a naked intruder in your home, or have a naked madman demand your clothing at knife point? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.